Let's go to the second part of this is understanding the mind-body relationship and going to eliminating stress and tension. And here's how we do it. There are 6 primary conditions that cause us to feel stress and tension. And of course, these all have to do with our interpretations. I want you to do these exercises that are here when you get a chance. And if we get a chance before the end of this session, then we'll come back to the exercises that we just passed over. So the 6 primary causes. Number 1 is a lack of meaning and purpose in life. Now this is really interesting. It really is a core problem, because if you have a real sense of meaning and purpose, all of your negative emotions disappear, because you have no time to think about things that cause you to be unhappy. You are so busy doing what you're doing. Remember we said yesterday, sometimes you get so busy in the day you forget all of your worries. You don't even worry all day long. At the end of the day, you say, oh my God, I forgot to worry. Now the law of emotions says that a stronger emotion will overcome a weaker emotion. So I want to give you an analogy. Imagine that you have 2 fires. And this is the fire of all the things that you're mad at and unhappy about in life. And this is the fire of desire and goals and meaning and purpose and the things that you really enjoy doing and want to accomplish. And you come up with a certain amount of emotional energy each day, because you don't use all your energy physically. So every morning you have a new store of energy, almost like in the old days they would deliver milk to your doorstep each day. Every morning you get brand new bottles of milk. So you come and you have this load of emotional firewood, and you can put it on either fire. And you decide, well, from now on, I'm not going to put emotional fire. I'm not going to spend my time thinking and talking about things that make me unhappy. I'm going to put all my emotional fire on my desires and my hopes and my dreams, and you load all the wood on that. If you do that every day, and keep loading this fire so it burns brighter and brighter and brighter, and you don't put any on this fire, what happens to this fire? It goes out. And once it goes out and the ashes go cold, it's very hard to ever light it up again. I've just given you 4 years of psychology. That's all. And at the university, that's all you really need. Is the fact is that you keep all of your thinking on the things that you want and desire, and you get so busy working on things that you care about, the other fire just dies away of its own accord because of neglect and lack of attention. And so remember, whenever you are thinking or talking about something that is negative, you're loading firewood on it, you're keeping it burning, you're keeping it burning. And so what you do is you just like a searchlight, switch your searchlight over and keep it focused on your goals. When you have a sense of meaning and purpose, you can hardly wait to get up in the morning, you hate to sleep at night, and you're just busy all day long. Not only that, the impression of making progress towards something that's important to you gives you energy beyond belief. Not only that, because you are not burning up any emotional energy by the expression of negative emotions, you have more mental and psychic energy. You're smarter and you're more creative. You have a better personality and you're happier, you're more cheerful. Your body is producing endorphins, and you get into what is called a state of flow, this state of optimal performance where you're just functioning at a higher level than most people function because you're working and thinking about your goals most of the time. So, human beings need to feel that their lives have significance. And the only way that we feel that our lives have significance is when we feel that we are making a contribution of some kind that is greater than what we're taking out. The psychological studies that we've done over the years and are coming out is people who live on welfare or get money for nothing, for not making a contribution, are always, without exception, extremely unhappy and negative people, which is why there's so much alcoholism and drug addiction within the communities that are high welfare communities, because these people feel so angry with themselves that they take these chemicals in order to come sometimes to blot out the emotional pain. And there was a wonderful story of a woman when they brought in welfare reform in '96, and something like 2 million people went off the welfare rolls. This woman's been on welfare for 3 generations. She had 3 or 4 children, and she had to go out and get a job. And she did. And she learned how to do the job well, and she was respected and esteemed, and she was paid well. And they asked her, you know, after a lifetime of welfare, would you go back on welfare? She said, absolutely not. She said, I feel so happy going to work every day. My family's proud of me. My people I work with are proud of me. I'm doing a great job. My customers are happy. I mean, she said, I never understood how wonderful you feel when you're doing a good job and you're making a difference in the world. So we need to feel that our lives have significance. If our lives don't have significance, then we just become angry with ourselves. So goals give us that sense of significance. Lack of meaning and purpose in life leads to a lack of direction. Yes, we just simply drift like a ship without a rudder, and a lack of meaning and purpose means a lack of goals. I'll tell you a quick story. A woman went to a doctor, and this woman had been to several doctors, and her husband had died about 2 years before, and they'd been married for many years. She was in her 50s. They'd been married maybe 30 years, and her husband died, and it left a great void in her life, and she was unhappy and distracted. She had headaches and psychosomatic illness, and she had aches and pains, and started to have arthritis and things like that. And she went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and the doctors gave her painkillers or said that we really can't find out anything that's wrong with you. She finally went to another doctor, and she's sitting there complaining and talking about she'd been happily married for 30 years, and now she's alone, and she doesn't know what she's going to do with her life, and she's got all these pains. And the doctor said, would you do me a favor? And he said, sure. So he took out a box of matches, you know, those old boxes of matches. He took out a box of matches, and he said, would you put all these matches back in the box? So he poured them out in front of her, gave her the box. He said, just put all the matches back in the box for me. Well, all right. So she took the matches, and she put them all back in the box, and he gave it to her. And he opened it up, and he said, no, 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 I want all the heads facing in one direction. Poured them back out again. Put all the heads in one direction. Oh, all right. I can do that. And she did. Put it up, behind her back, and he looked at it. He said, no, no, that's the back of the box. They have to be pointed toward the front of the box. Please do it one more time. Did it again. This time she was. Is this what you want? You want it like this? Is this the way direction? She did it. And she did like, and got it, and put it on, and handed the box back to her. How's that? And he said, thank you. He said, how do you feel now? She said, I feel more relaxed than I felt in 2 years since my husband died. I said, yes, you don't have any physical problems. You just have lack of purpose in your life. Your life is going around in circles, and that's why you're unhappy. That's why you're feeling these physical ailments. What you need to do is find something that's bigger than you, find someone who has got things far worse than you, and go to work to help them, and all your problems will go away. And she did. She went out, first of all, she started to volunteer for some charities, and then she started a small business, and then she got busy, and all of her problems went away. Within a few months, she was just as happy and as healthy as she could possibly be. The starting point was the doctor realized that her problem was not external things, she just didn't have a sense of purpose in life. So there's a little ditty that I'll tell you, feeling listless, make a list. Feeling listless, make a list. Because the very act of sitting down and writing down 10 things that you want to accomplish in the next 12 months and thinking about those things, thinking about what you could do to achieve them, suddenly all your problems are gone. All your worry, negative emotions, depression, frustration, it all disappears when you make a list of goals. And then when you say, well, I'm going to take this one goal, and I'm going to do something on this one goal right now. And you get up and do something, and suddenly you start to feel terrific. Your brain releases endorphins, your energy levels start to rise, your superconscious mind starts to work, and you feel back in control. You're back in charge. Like that wonderful line from Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. And then that line from Paul Newman at the end of the pool shooting movie. You remember that line? When he was playing Fast Eddie against, what's his name? Tom Cruise. Remember that movie? And he was the top pool player in the country at one time. And he breaks and he says, I'm back. Clash! And that was the end of the movie. Well, when you start to set goals for yourself, it's clash, I'm back. You're back in charge of your life. And it's impossible to think two thoughts at the same time, positive or negative. So when you're thinking about your goal and how you can achieve it, and you're taking action to achieve it, all your thoughts about negativity and things all just disappear. There's just no room for them in your mind. And if you do something repeatedly over and over again, what do you develop? You develop a habit of thinking and working on things that are important to you all the time. Now, people say, well, doesn't that make your life rigid? Or, I mean, what about fun? It's not fun to be indolent and hanging around. What's fun is feeling that you're making progress, achieving something that's important. Spending time with your family, going on vacations, going for walks, physically exercising, writing a poem. That's what's fun. It's fun when you're using your potential at a higher level. Again, Ernest Holmes once said that almost all negativity comes from a feeling of frustrated potential. From this inner feeling that I could be doing far more than I am today. I could be achieving far more than I am today. The only question is, how do you realize your full potential? Some people think they can realize it by buying a lottery ticket or gambling or something else. Others realize that in order to achieve my full potential, I'm going to have to work very hard for a long time and do really, really good work and get paid really well for it. And so might as well get on with it. So the second major cause of stress and tension in our lives is called the incomplete action. And this is a major problem in psychology. In the human psyche, there is an urge to completion. There is a deep down need to finish things. And Drucker called it a compulsion to closure, is we need closure for things. And so when we are engaged in any activity that is started but not completed, it's an enormous source of stress. There's a story of a trial lawyer, and whenever this is back many years ago when you could smoke in a courtroom, whenever this trial lawyer realized that he had a dicey case and that the evidence was against his client, he would appear the day where the prosecution was making the summary to the jury, the final day, and what he would do is he would sit there with a big cigar at his desk while the prosecutor, the district attorney, got up to give all the evidence, summarize all the evidence against the perpetrator. And he would smoke this cigar, and he would say, "Objection, Your Honor." He'd raise the cigar. And as he smoked the cigar, the ash would grow longer and longer and longer and longer. And he'd be using this cigar, and he'd say, "Excuse me, that's not a correct statement." And he'd keep moving this around. And pretty soon, the jury was watching this cigar. When is the ash going to fall off? It got longer and longer and longer, and he'd smoke it, and he'd make a point, and Your Honor, and finally everybody, they completely ignored the evidence that the district attorney was giving. They couldn't pay attention. They're watching. The whole jury was watching this ash until finally, the district attorney would become so frustrated he could not keep their attention. Finally, at the end of his summary, which they remembered none of, he would put down the cigar, and he would get up, and he would give his summary of the defense. And he said he almost always got his clients off, even if they were guilty. And then he'd go back, and the courtroom cleared out, and he'd go back, and he'd take a long, thin wire that he put through the whole cigar. He said, "That wire has saved many of my clients from punishment," because he just kept them in a state of tension. Sometimes one of the things you'll do is you'll say, well, geez, I'm thirsty, and you go like this. Yeah, and what I was going to say was this. Like Jack in the back there has red hair. Yeah. Do you notice the tension builds up? When is he going to drink it? Either drink it or put it down, for heaven's sakes. So anything, any uninterrupted, any incomplete act is a source of stress and tension because you feel like a non-winner. Any completed act gives you a winning feeling. That's why one of the best-selling books is by Allen, what is his name, John? Pardon, David Allen? David Allen. I've spoken to him a couple of times, nice guy. He has one concept in his book, Getting Things Done, that is worth the book. And there's nothing else works in his book, by the way. Nobody else has ever been able to make it work, and yes, he sells millions of books. You know what it is? Closed loops. Remember that, Joan? It's closed loops. In other words, go through your life, and what are all the things that are still undone, and close them. Just finish them, one after another. As you close the loop, you get motivation, you feel like a winner, you feel happy, your self-esteem goes up, and it motivates you to close the next loop. And so one of the most wonderful things you can do in your life is make a list of all the projects that you've started and have not completed. Now, some of those projects you can discard, which closes the loop on those. The others, you just finish. You just close the loop on them. So procrastination is not only the thief of time and life, but it's a major source of stress. You can actually become physically ill by procrastinating on the completion of a task. That's the reason why my book, Eat That Frog, on procrastination is so popular worldwide. I mean, it's amazing. I go everywhere in the world. It became the #1 book in Iran for 2 years in a row. It went into 13 printings. When I went to Iran to speak, it's a very interesting experience. A couple of years ago, they have my books, and there is a Brian Tracy book section in every major bookstore in Tehran. And at the universities and on the book stands and on the streets, they steal the Ayatollahs say that we in Iran do not pay royalties for the production of foreign books. So they just steal every book, translate it into Farsi, and publish it. And so you never get any royalties. But, geez, was I famous. When I went there, they brought 1,600 people for 3 days out to hear me speak because everybody had read that book. It was so popular. Best-selling book in the country. And they liked it so much they stole all my other books. They brought me about 30. They brought me about 30 of my books to sign. They said, these are all the books that are in Farsi. Because there's no respect for copyright, you know what they did is when the book started to sell like a house on fire, another publisher took the first publication and published it themselves. And then another publisher took it, and another publisher took it. There's 4 publishers publishing Eat That Frog, all competing against each other in the Iranian book market. Most amazing thing. My point is that people love the book because it gives them tools to overcome procrastination. And when you overcome procrastination and complete a task, you feel happy. It just, geez, you feel happy. You feel wonderful about yourself. So we say whenever we complete an action, our self-esteem goes up and we feel like a winner. Every completed action gives you a source of energy and self-esteem. Every completed action gives you energy and higher self-esteem. So just completing an action, just washing your car, taking your car down to the car wash, washing it, bringing it home, cleaning it out, and standing back and looking at it. Bringing the groceries home, putting them all away, and just looking at your clean kitchen. Washing the dishes after dinner, putting it all away and looking at the clean kitchen. These are small things. Cleaning up the living room, putting everything away so everything's put away. These are small things, but they're complete acts. Completing it, mowing a lawn, cleaning out your cupboards, putting all the garbage out, completing any task gives you a sense of self-esteem, self-confidence, makes you happier, gives you energy. We love completed tasks. In fact, one of the ways you can get yourself cranked up, if you're unhappy or tired or anything else, just pick what I call a job of work. It's a British expression, a job of work. Just pick a complete job of work, a complete task, and just complete it. And you'll immediately start to feel happy again. You start to feel up. So it's very powerful. Now, the special case of the unfinished action, and this is where I'm really going with this, is what is called unfinished business. And unfinished business is where you have had a situation with another person and you have not yet let go of it. It's unfinished business. It's still there, and it's still bothering you, and it's still making you happy. And we talked about this yesterday. To deal with unfinished relationships, you write the letter. Somebody was asking about that this morning, and as you recall, the letter has 3 or 4 parts. First part is I accept 100% responsibility for the relationship and everything that happened in it. No exceptions. 2, I forgive you 100% for everything that you did to hurt me, and you can list everything that the person did that you're still mad about. Interesting thing, psychoneuromotor activity, when you write it down on the page, you delete it from your own mental hard drive. When you say, I forgive you for this, you delete it from yourself. It's gone from your emotions. And then wish him or her well. I wish you well in the rest of your life, and then mail the letter. You can do this. Abraham Lincoln, when he would get very, very angry with someone in his cabinet, would sit down and write them a scathing letter and telling them every single thing that he was mad at, and then he would just file the letter. But by writing it all out on paper, all his anger was gone. It was written out on paper. So he would never mail the letter. They found these letters in his things after his death. But after that, he was calm. Instead of it churning around in his mind, thinking of why he's angry and unhappy and so on, just wrote it down. And it was all gone. So then mail the letter. Now this takes tremendous courage to do, but it also develops courage and character in yourself. The third major source of stress and tension is the fear of failure, which, as you know, goes back to childhood, to destructive criticism when you were growing up, to feeling that I can't, I want to, but I can't. I want to break out of this comfort zone, but I'm so afraid, what if it doesn't work? I remember when Barbara and I started our own business way back in 1980, 81. I said, you know, we were living in a house, which we'd been able to buy from our previous job. I said, you know, if this business doesn't work out, we could lose the house, we could lose everything. We could be forced back to living in a small apartment. And she said something to me at that time that I never forgot. She said, so what? It's only money. We'll make it back. Let's go. I said, okay. Well, if you're not going to be upset if we lose everything, no problem. We'll make it back. We'll be okay. And so we started the business, and it was very, very difficult, but we made the business success. All businesses, by the way, when they start off, are terrible. They're terrible. You're going to learn more about business in the first month after starting your business than you learned in 5 years at an MBA. But nonetheless, the business went, and the business was successful. But that was really the turning point. So what? It's only money. If we lose it, we'll make it back. And that eliminated the fear of failure. No fear. So now you can focus all your energies forward rather than trying to cover your back and worrying about what might happen. So the fear of failure can be dealt with in two ways. Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. In all the psychology, they say the critical thing is just to confront the fear and do the thing you fear. Ralph Waldo Emerson said his life was changed when he was a young man in Concord, Connecticut, and a piece of paper blew against his leg when he was walking down the street, and it was a scrap from a newspaper or a book, and it said, "If you would be successful, do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain." Glenn Ford had this beautiful line. He said, "If you do not do the thing you fear, then the fear controls your life." The fear controls your life. And you know how many people, the bottom 80% of the population, fears control their lives. They don't think in terms of what they want to do. They have what Abraham Maslow called deficiency needs. They think of the things that they're afraid of and what might happen. And they think of losing their time and losing their money and what if people don't approve. And so their fears preoccupy them. Now here's a wonderful thing. Is no child is born with fear. You know that already. So where do the fears come from? They're taught to us by our parents. We learn our parents' favorite fears. And sometimes fears have a beneficial effect. I was brought up with my parents' traumatic fear of poverty. My mother came from a poor background, poor family, Irish Catholic family, and my father had never had any money. And so all the time I was growing up, they were petrified of cost and expense. I mean, they literally were consumed with the fact that they couldn't afford anything. Our family theme song was, "We can't afford it. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. We can't afford it." And it's not the words, it's the emotion with which they charge the words that affects the psyche of the young person. You grow up emotionally traumatized by not being able to afford things. And sometimes you never fully recover. By the way, decades later, you're still thinking, geez, I can't afford it. How much does that cost? Or, oh, it's a lot of money. When it's not a lot of money. Can I have an extra piece of cheese on my Big Mac? I mean, oh, God, that's another 50 cents. You know, what's the matter with you? It's a conditioned response. So here's what we learn, is that if you have a fear in your life, can I turn this way? Is this way? Is this okay? Good direction? Okay? All right. If you have a fear in your life and you move away from the fear, it grows like a balloon, bulging up. But if you move toward the fear gets smaller. And it gets so small, it's completely manageable. But if you back away, it gets bigger. If you move toward it, it gets smaller. So the rule is that you move toward what you fear. You do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. In the Serengeti Plains, the zoologists who are studying the animals can tell who the leader of a herd is by simply watching the behavior of the herd when the herd is preyed upon by a predator. A lion or a cheetah is moving through the grass, and the wildebeest are grazing, or the zebras are grazing. And they're grazing, and they pick up the odor of the moving predator, who's moving to get close enough to the pack to attack one of the members of the pack. And the whole herd starts to drift away. It's almost like you see the herd starts to drift away from where the predator is moving toward them in the grass. And at that time, the leader of the pack can be identified, because the leader, who's been grazing with the others, comes up and turns and places himself between the predator and the pack as they move away, between the predator and the pack, and faces down the predator. Now, a wildebeest does not have much of a hope against an attacking lion or an attacking cheetah, but they will always turn toward danger. And those are the words. And it's one of the most important expressions I ever learned, is that in life, make a habit of turning toward danger. Is when you have a fear of any kind, turn toward danger. Turn toward the fear and face the fear. And the wonderful thing is that if you face the fear, you can become calmer and clearer, and you deal with the fear effectively. If you don't, the fear will overwhelm you and keep you awake and preoccupy you. Turn toward danger. So what I suggest that you do is think in your life, what are the things that you're afraid of? What are the things that cause you fear and stress? And make it a game to face them down, to look them straight in the face and face them down, to do the thing you fear rather than to avoid it. And each time you move toward the fear by doing it, your fears get smaller and smaller. And soon you'll reach the point where you're almost afraid of nothing. You'll never reach the point where you're totally fearless, which is probably a healthy thing. But you'll reach the point where people say, what are you really afraid of? What have you always wanted to do but been afraid to attempt? You'll reach the point where you can't write down anything because there's nothing you're afraid to attempt. Because if you're afraid of it, hey, this is a challenge. You move toward the thing you fear, and the fears will go away. Now here's the second way that you can overcome fears, which is simple, powerful, fast, effective, and it's simple affirmation. Just simply say, I can do it. Like Bella Caroli, you can do it. I can do it. The interesting thing is that your fears are here and your self-confidence is here. Whenever you say, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, your courage and confidence goes up and your fears go down like a teeter-totter. Whenever you say, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I can do it, I can do it. Whenever you speak positively, but the most powerful of all is I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. Because you can't say I can do it and be afraid at the same time. Because of the law of substitution, when you're saying I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, your fears just go down, 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 and then you take action and everything is fine. I've taught this to salespeople who are tense about picking up the telephone or tense about cold calling or calling on a customer. Just look at the phone and say, wait a minute, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And your courage goes up, 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 and then just dial. And as soon as you've dialed the last digit, all your fear is gone. It's just the act of getting started that destroys the fear. I had a woman in my course, and she said that her boss was really critical and was always criticizing and was never supportive or anything else, and he was making her life unpleasant, but she didn't want to lose her job. I said, you don't have to lose your job, but don't lose your integrity. The next time your boss criticizes you, you look them straight in the eye and say, please don't criticize me. It makes me very unhappy and it causes me to do my work poorly. I prefer that you not criticize me anymore. And so she said, okay, because this has been going on for a year. Next time her boss criticized her, she said, I prefer that you not criticize me anymore because it detracts from my work and I don't like it. So please don't say those things to me anymore. Well, he was flushed. He walked into his office and closed his desk, closed his door, and he never criticized her again. He criticized the others, but he didn't criticize her because she wouldn't take it. And she said, I can't believe it. She said to me, for 2 years I've been taking this verbal abuse from him, and all I had to do was confront him and stop it. And so it's really important because the people that we need the most courage to confront are the ones that are causing us the greatest unpleasantness. So what we do is we just confront them and say, please don't do that anymore. Please stop doing that. Don't do that. Don't speak to me like that anymore. Well, all right, I'll go down the hall and criticize her. I mean, all right. Eliminating stress and tension. The next major stressor, number 4, is the fear of rejection. Parents use conditional love to get children to do what we want them to do. So at a very early age, we become hypersensitive to the opinions of other people around us. Mostly we're hypersensitive to people above us in the food chain, people who are important to us, important to our lives, important to our incomes. But we're hypersensitive sometimes to people around us. People will reach the point where they're so concerned about criticism or disapproval that they're easily manipulated by anybody, even complete strangers. So conditional love leads to the fear of rejection, which leads to type A behavior. Type A behavior is interesting. The characteristics of type A behavior, which are very common, they say about as many as 60% of men in our society and about 10% of women have type A behavior. So the characteristics of type A behavior, is, first of all, it's called the hurry sickness. People who have type A behavior are always in a hurry. They're always like the rabbit, I'm late for a very important date. And they're always in a hurry to get things done, to get place, to go where. They don't relax. They go almost like they're a tight bowstring that's pulled up tight. Second of all, they have insecurity of status. By the way, if you've come from a poor background, insecurity of status is something that will plague us most of our lives. It means that no matter how much we accomplish, we never feel secure. No matter how much money we have, we don't feel secure. We have this feeling, as I said yesterday or on Friday, is we have the feeling that we're going to lose it all, that it's all going to be taken away from us, that something will happen, we'll lose it all, and we'll be right back to where we started. And people who have type A behavior, conditional love, are afraid that not just the love, but everything they have earned will be taken away from them. And they have this insecurity of status. So they can be the #1 performer of the year, and on January 1st, they feel like they're no good at all, that they've got to perform all over again. They can never rest on their laurels and say, hey, you've made it. You're a good person. You're successful. The third manifestation of type A behavior is a feeling, a need to perform to some undetermined high standard. In other words, the standard has never, it's like a finish line that's never been determined. So no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you accomplish, you never feel any sense of accomplishment because there's no standard that you're aiming at. The bar is always being raised. It's an infinite bar. No matter how much you accomplish, you feel that you haven't accomplished enough. You have what is often called the imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome is you feel no matter what you accomplish, you're an imposter, and they're going to find you out and find out you're no good. So you have to keep accomplishing. You have to keep working. You have to keep achieving. And this becomes a habit, and then it becomes almost like a mania, and people just can't stop working. And they'll work themselves to death, by the way. They'll work themselves long, long hours. Sometimes people will only stop type A behavior when they have a massive heart attack, and the doctor says if you don't back off, you'll die. Often it takes what is called a significant emotional event, an SEE, a significant emotional event, a traumatic event for a person to make a radical change in their behavior. So, competitiveness, which is generalized toward almost everybody. People who have type A behavior are highly competitive. They're always comparing themselves with others, especially people who are doing better than them. Big danger, as we said before, if you compare yourselves with others who are doing better than you, that's fine, as long as that's a goal to strive toward. But if you compare yourself with them and you criticize them and run them down and are angry and resentful toward them, then that will consume you. It will destroy you almost like a cancer. Number 5 is they have aggression and hostility. You'll find that people who have type A behavior are a little bit angry all the time and very easy to blow into anger if something happens to frustrate them for any way. They are thing-oriented versus people-oriented, is they think in terms of things. We were listening to a speaker the other day, there's some friends of mine from Sang here, and he's very wealthy, but he said he went through 4 stages of life. He said stage number 1 of life was things. He wanted to get more things. Stage number 2, because he got no satisfaction from the things, was more things. Stage number 3 was different things. And stage number 4 was to finally realize that things are not the measure of success. But he spent most of his life striving for things, more things, and different things. And still, as I said before, there is no joy in things. And he couldn't understand, no matter how successful he was, how much money he made. You remember that guy, Brett? Yeah. No matter how much money he made, he just had no sense of fulfillment or satisfaction because there is no joy in things. Things are as dead as stones. You know, a friend of mine sold his company got $20 million. He'd come from the poorest background you could imagine. And the first thing he did, he went out and bought a Rolls Royce. $350,000, top of the line, silver cloud. He dreamed about that all his life. And he bought the Rolls Royce and he drove it home. And he's driving this car. Wow, he lives in Florida. He's driving this car and he goes home and he goes in the house and his wife is mad or upset about something and he gets caught up in an argument with her and he forgot about the car completely, as if the car never existed. It was just a thing. It had no emotion attached to it. So they're thing-oriented versus people-oriented, especially in terms of numbers. Type A people are always looking at the numbers and always comparing themselves financially in terms of financial results. And the type A takes no time off. They even brag, I haven't had a vacation for 5 years. I haven't taken a day off in 4 years. This is the true type A. I've known people like this, by the way. Now, the type B is different. The type B focuses on performance and results, which are the key to success in business. They focus on performance. They focus on doing a really, really good job. They focus on getting better in their field. Type A focuses on politics and manipulation. One of the great tragedies of politics today is that once you get into politics, there's no more focus on performance or results. There's only a focus on politics and manipulation. Everybody is your enemy. Everybody is somebody that you're trying to get something from, or they're trying to get something from you. I read this psychological study recently. It said that there's 2 types of people. There are people who look at people as human beings and are interested in them and what they do and interested in them as acquaintances and friends. And there's people who look at others as agents, as people that they can use to get something from. And if they can't get something from them, they have no interest in them. And in Hollywood, we have friends in Hollywood, they say, in Hollywood, this is unbelievable. You go to a Hollywood function, and people come up to you, and many of the people who get into Hollywood are very charming. That's how they get into show business. And they'll come up and they'll be really, really charming. How are you, and how's it going, and where are you from, and how long have you been here in Hollywood, and everything else, and what sort of work do you do? And then they'll determine that you were invited by a friend and you work for a different company, and you can be of no help to them. And they'll say, Oh, they walk away. Hi, how are you doing? They don't say goodbye or I'll talk to you later or nice to meet you or anything else. They literally, in the middle of the conversation, say, huh, and walk away. And then they'll talk to you, and if they figure out they can't get something from you, they just walk away. And this entire room full of people does this. They're going around almost like predatory animals looking for someone who's an agent, someone who's a writer, someone who's a producer, someone who knows something. And if they feel that you cannot be of advantage to them, they'll just walk away in an instant. And they say in Hollywood, it's just so shocking. And I've seen this before. I've been in functions where I'm talking to somebody and I have a nice conversation and they say, oh, you're a speaker. Don't you live around here? I said, no. Oh, gone. Walk away. I mean, but you know, so be alert to these people. These people, by the way, are not well. The type A dies about 10 to 12 years before a type B. And during that time, they have an enormous number of physical problems. They'll have anything up to strokes, heart problems, arthritis, cancer, all kinds of psychosomatic illnesses because they're so wound up and they're so selfish and they're so angry. As they say, ulcers are not the result of what you eat, but by what's eating you. And these people are just being eaten alive inside. It's interesting, they say that anger is a very bad chemical because anger destroys the dish in which it's held. It destroys the container in which it's held. So when people are angry, it eats them up inside. And these people are angry, jealous, hostile, almost invariably going back to unconditional love. They need the unconditional affection of others, and no matter how much they get, they cannot get enough. And they will do anything to get it, and some of them are extraordinarily clever in terms of personality in getting the esteem and affection of others. So, eliminating stress and tension, move from type A to type B behavior. First of all, to stop being a type A, admit that you're a type A. Now, you may not be a total type A. You may be just a partial type A. You may be preoccupied with your work. I remember this woman, reading a story about this woman, and she was totally preoccupied with her work. She got married, she had 2 children, she worked 12, 14 hours a day, and her work was everything. And at the age of 34, she'd been working for this company for 12 years. Her marriage and her motherhood was in a mess, nothing but problems at home. The boss came in and fired her. Saying, we don't need you around here anymore. Here's your check, you can leave right now. She walked out on the street. She'd worked 12 years, almost the entire time she'd been married. She'd worked 12 years at this job, given her whole heart and soul to the job, and it was over in one conversation. And she suddenly realized, she stood there on the sidewalk in the streets of New York, and she said, geez, have I got my values out of proportion? I mean, have I really got distorted values? And she realized what a terrible mistake she'd made to put all of her life, hope, emotions, everything into a job which has no joy. And she went back and she became an excellent mother, an excellent parent. She got a different job doing something she enjoyed. She said it was the most traumatic moment of her life, and actually got the best because she realized she'd given all of this time to a thing, to a career, to a paycheck. And at the end of it, the gratitude was, we don't need your services anymore. You can leave now. Wow. Okay, so it's good to keep your values in proportion. So admit that you're a type A or that you have type A tendencies and decide to change, and then meditate and relax completely twice a day. It's the most amazing thing. If you listen to that affirmation CD and you listen to it twice a day or even once a day, you will find that it'll calm you down completely. It'll lower your flash point. There are some people who are angry all the time. If you meditate on a regular basis, it lowers your flash point, so you very seldom ever get angry at all. When something comes up, there'll be a little bit of a surge of emotion, and you just go completely calm again. You'll actually reprogram yourself internally to be a much calmer, more relaxed person, much more effective with yourself and with other people. So the difference between a workaholic and type A are simple. The workaholic is inner-directed. People say, what's the difference? A workaholic is inner-directed, they have their own goals, and they're working really hard because they enjoy what they're doing, and they're getting great results. A type A is externally driven. They're constantly comparing themselves with others. They're constantly looking for others in terms of what they can get from them. They're always thinking outwardly. The workaholic takes time off. A workaholic can work 12, 14 hours a day and then go away on vacation and not take their computer or their cell phone and not call the office or anything else. Type A's, by the way, when they go on a vacation, because their family insists upon it, They go on a vacation, they take their computer, the first thing they'll do is set it up, they take their cell phone, and they're on the phone in the airport, and they're on the phone when they get off the plane, and they're on their computer, and the whole thing is just an extension of their life. And they don't want to be away from the office for too long, for fear people will find out that they're not really that necessary. And the type A cannot take time off. Even if they take time off, they don't take time off. So here's a real good test, is can you just stop work and take a whole weekend off and not think about work at all? Now here's a basic rule, is that you need to take at least one full day off per week. We talked about the Sabbath, 36 hours. If you cannot take a full day off without working, without checking your email, without reading stuff from the office, without making phone calls and so on, if you can't take a full day off, then you need to really look at yourself. I had an experience 2 years ago when I needed a new computer, and they sent away and they ordered a computer from Dell, and it came and it was not set up properly. It did not have the right software, so they had to send it back. As it happens, I was early December and I was leaving for a speaking tour of Europe. At that time, I was going to be gone for about a week, and when I came back, my whole family goes to Maui for 3 weeks at Christmas. They leave on the 15th. I got back on the 16th. So instead of going back to San Diego, I flew from Venice through Frankfurt to San Francisco, and I connected with the plane in San Francisco and flew on to Maui. I got in there one day late, and I packed before I left, so Barbara had sent my suitcase with my Hawaii clothes. So I got to Hawaii, but my computer, I didn't have my computer from the 7th of December all the way through, and I didn't get it until the something like the 7th or 8th of January when I got back to San Diego. And so I was not able to check email, I was not able to go online, I was not able to do anything. And you know, the most amazing thing happened. The world continued to turn. We get to thinking that we are so important that we're out of communication with the world, somehow the world will stop turning. So we've got to be on our BlackBerries, we've got to be on our email, we've got to rush up to the room and get our iPad or our computer on. I can promise you this, if you turn it off for a few weeks, the world will continue to turn. You're just not that important in the great scheme of things. Now, people say, what if something important happens? Somebody will tell you. And what if something important happens in your family? Somebody will call you and let you know. Don't worry. But you don't have to seek it out. Because I remember a fortune writer who went on assignment to Europe. He came back after a month. He had 800 emails. Had 800 emails there. And he said, I can never go through these emails in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, it's all I would do all day long. So he just pushed delete all. He said, if they're important, they'll come back. And the ones that were important came back. And the ones that weren't never came back. He just deleted all 800 emails. So I challenge you to do that. Just go up and delete everything. Delete everything from yesterday through. Go delete all. No, it causes your heart to pound, doesn't it? Oh my God. Remember, one time there was an email, and now you can't live without it. Julie Morgenstern, who's a really nice woman who writes on time management, just wrote a book called Don't Check Your Email in the Morning. Don't check your email in the morning. And now I know lots of people who check their email twice a day. It's right on there. If you do not receive a reply from this email, it's because I only check it at 11 and 3. And I don't check it on weekends at all. And so he'll check it at 11, check it at 3, and the rest of the thing, turn it off. No pinging, ping, ping, you've got mail, none of that. Turn it off. And you'll be astonished. Now you can really start to use your mind in a powerful way. So, eliminating stress and tension, the fifth major killer is denial of reality. This is considered by many psychologists to be the core psychological illness. Denial means it's a refusal to face unpleasant truths. It's the refusal to face an unpleasant truth in your life. There's something in your life that you do not want to face. And as we say, denial is not a river in Egypt. All right. We engage in denial because we're afraid of embarrassment. We're afraid of admitting something about ourselves. We're afraid of admitting something that we're ashamed of. We're afraid of admitting something that indicates that we're weak or that we're not smart or that we made a mistake, and it really bothers us. So denial is very, very major source of mental disturbance. So there are 3 keys to eliminating denial. Number 1, remember the great philosophy of objectivism. Reality is, if an event has occurred, it is reality. It is now a fact. It can't be changed. Don't deny a fact. Don't deny something that happened in the past. It's over. You lost your money. You lost your relationship. you lost your health or business. It's a fact. Don't get upset about facts, things that occurred in the past that you can't change. Just accept it. The opposite of denial is acceptance. Second of all, is remember there's always a price you can pay to be free of any problem in your life. There's always a price you can pay, and you always know what that price is. And often the price is to walk away. Often the price is to walk away from the money. I remember people who get into bitter divorce squabbles and they're fighting over the money. Until finally one person says, I'm not going to ruin my health over this. Let's turn it over to an adjudicator. Let the judge decide how it's going to be divided, and whatever the judge decides is fine with me. Win, lose, or draw. They just simply stop fighting about it, and it's over. Remember, there's always a price you can pay to be free of any problem that's worrying you, and you always know what the price is. The only question is, do you have the courage to pay the price? Do you have the courage to pay the price? And 3, resolve to pay the price sooner rather than later. Because once the situation has happened, you're going to have to pay the price sometime. You might as well get it over with. And just pay the price and walk away. Sometimes the price is to walk away from money. Sometimes it's walk away from a job, walk away from an investment, walk away from a relationship. There's always a price you can pay. And you have the courage to pay the price. Because once it's over, you're going to have to pay the price sooner or later. The only question is, how long are you going to suffer before you finally pay the price? There are some people who go through a bad relationship and they're angry all their lives. And they never meet another person for more than one date. And they're never pleasant or unhappy. And they think about their problem all the time, and it makes them physically and mentally ill. And they become unpleasant people. As they say, like they've been weaned on a pickle. You know, they're just miserable people all the time because they just won't let it go. Let it go. So, there are 2 types of personalities. The first type is the evader personality, the one that avoids reality, does everything possible not to face the truth. This is the person who denies. This is the person who lies. In psychology, they have all those little terms called depression, suppression, repression, sublimation, projection. All of these are different ways of a person not facing the truth of their life. They're always looking for something, and whatever is impressed is expressed. And so what happens, you can actually make yourself physically ill by repressing emotions, repressing experiences in your life or unhappy things in your life that you don't want to deal with. The second is the confronter. The confronter is a totally healthy personality. This is the person who just says it the way it is. That doesn't mean they're undiplomatic or rude, is they just speak their truth. They speak from the heart and they speak their truth. If they don't agree with something, they say, you know, that's a good point, but I don't agree with that. If they don't like something, they say, I don't like that. I prefer not to do that. In other words, they just say it clearly, and they're not concerned about whether the other person is going to be worried or hypersensitive. They're not attacking, they're just expressing their opinion. They confront things directly. If they have a problem with a person, they go and confront the person directly and say, you know, there's a problem here, and I would really like to resolve it. But I'm really not happy with the way the situation is right now. Instead of going home and tossing and turning and everything else, they just confront it directly. So your job is to become a confronter personality and to speak your truth straightforwardly and honestly. The most important rule you can learn in life is to set peace of mind as your highest goal and then organize your whole life around it. Wherever there's anything in your life that's taking away from your peace of mind, resolve to set peace of mind as your highest goal and do whatever it takes to get your peace of mind back. And there's 2 things that you can do. One is you can get into a situation completely and resolve it, or you can walk away from it. And often walking away from a bad situation is the most intelligent thing you ever do. Throughout your life, you've had experiences where you walked away from a bad relationship or a bad job or a bad investment. And how did you feel afterwards? How do you feel afterwards, after you just walk away? You feel great. You feel relieved. You feel happy. You feel exhilarated. And all the things you thought would happen never happened. All the negative things you thought would happen never happened. And you say, I should have walked away a long time ago. Why did I insist on punishing myself by staying there long after I knew that it was an unsavable situation? Number 6 is anger. It's the worst negative emotion of all. It's where all negative emotions eventually come down to. So anger depends upon blaming for its existence. You cannot be angry unless you can blame someone else for something. So we become angry when we feel that we are aggressed upon, when somebody is taking advantage of us or somebody is hurting us in some way. And when we are attacked, we feel like a victim. And as you know, we start to use victim language. This actor I was talking to a couple of days ago said you can always tell because people use the words to me. He did it to me. It happened to me. This happened to me. They did it to me. It was always to me, to me. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. People who live in our entitlement society see themselves as victims. They see themselves as entitled to being compensated for their victimhood. Because other people are doing better than them, then they should be paid for being victims. And they always use words like, I can't, and I have to, and I wish, and I want to, and I'll try. You can always see a person who has feelings of victimhood. When a person complains, they say, I'm a victim. When they criticize, they're saying, I'm a victim. When they condemn other people, they're saying, I'm a victim. I'm a victim. And what victimhood does is it guts you from your personality. Takes away your spontaneity, takes away your happiness and your joy. So when we feel like a victim, we want to counterattack. And psychologists have found that one of the ways that we can dispel anger out of our system is what is called gross physical impact activity, where you hit, kick, scream, or bite. And if you can think of a very vicious fight where people are furious, or even animals, they're furious, they do all four: hit, kick, scream, and bite at the same time. Now, one of the ways that we can hit is by playing sports where you can actually make contact. Basketball is a good way to dispel stress and anger out of your system. Kaboom, 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 kaboom. Running doesn't really help because there's no jolt. Whereas handball, for example, ka-whack, ka-whack, ka-whack. There are many cases where young kids have acne, and acne is often anger-related. And father will go and buy a big chunk of block of wood from the lumber yard, a big bag of 10-penny nails, big nails, and a big hammer, and just have the child go out and hammer nails into the block of wood for 15 minutes every day. In 7 days, all the acne is gone. All the anger that was generating the acne is dispelled into the block of wood. So you can actually get rid, there's a form of therapy called primal. Joan knows about primal scream. Is what they do is they teach you, and they take you into a protected environment, and they teach you to scream your negative emotions. Scream about your father, your mother, or something else. And in screaming it out in a safe environment, the anxiety and tension and frustration that's connected with it is dispelled as well. So biting is another thing. Sometimes when you're really angry about something, you say, I want to eat. Let's go out and eat. Well, would you like quiche or a little seafood? No, I want steak. I want beef. I want to get my teeth into something. Bring me prime rib with a bone in, you know. And so very often we want to go out and eat, because eating, when we're angry, we eat and we chew things, and we want to chew stuff. The anger dispels itself into the food. So just think of those as funny things. Playing tennis, whack, whack, whack. Playing racquetball, playing any kind of technique where you dispel the anger out of your system into something else. That's why hitting somebody. Another thing you can do, by the way, if you're really angry, go home and just sit by the side of your bed and pound the mattress. Just pounding the mattress dispels all the anger out of your system into the mattress, and you stop and you think, you feel really good. It's all gone. It's almost like you had a tranquilizer or something. And this is all scientifically validated, and it's better than pounding somebody's face, even though that was your first thought. Number 2, the key to neutralizing stress is the cognitive control method. Cognitive control requires that you say, I am responsible. It requires that you take full control over your own mind. And in taking full control over your own mind, by accepting responsibility, you have nothing to be mad about and nobody to be mad at, and you're no longer a victim. You're a powerful person. You're in charge of your life. The law of substitution states that you cannot think or feel stressed if you keep your mind on something positive. So you keep your mind on something positive. You keep your mind on something that you want. So the key is to think about your goals all the time. Whenever you're upset about something, think about your goals. Whenever you're mad at somebody, think about your goals. Whenever you're cut off in traffic, think about your goals. Because you can't think about your goals, which are inherently positive and uplifting and exciting and motivating, and still be angry at the same time. So you can dispel every negative emotion out of your life by, first of all, refusing to express it, and second of all, think about your goals. And when you think about your goals, you become more creative, you become more positive, you save your energy for higher levels, you have more ideas, you have more confidence, you have higher self-esteem, and so on. And every time you take a step in the direction of a goal, your self-esteem and self-confidence go up. Is that helpful to you so far? Yes. Okay, let's take 10 minutes. See if we can do it in 10 minutes and come back, and we'll continue.